Selling a little or a lot? Shopify helps you do your thing however you cha-ching. Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. From the launch your online shop stage to the first real-life store stage, all the way to the did we just hit a million orders stage. Shopify is there to help you grow. Shopify helps you turn browsers into buyers with the internet's best converting checkout. 36% better on average compared to other leading commerce platforms. Because businesses that grow, grow with Shopify. Get a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/work. Shopify.com/work.
Millions of people have lost weight with personalized plans from Noom. Like Evan, who can't stand salads and still lost 50 pounds.
Salads generally for most people are the easy button, right? For me, that wasn't an option. I never really was a salad guy. That's just not who I am. But Noom worked for me.
Get your personalized plan today at Noom.com. Real Noom user compensated to provide their story. In 4 weeks, the typical Noom user can expect to lose 1 to 2 pounds per week. Individual results may vary.
Planning for your next trip? Elevate your travel style with Quince. Quince has all the jet-setting essentials you'll want for your next getaway, like European linen, premium luggage options, buttery soft Italian leather bags, and so much more. And it's all priced at 50 to 80% less than similar brands. Plus, Quince only works with factories that use safe and ethical manufacturing practices. Pack your bags with high-quality essentials you'll be wearing for vacations to come with Quince. Go to quince.com/trip for free shipping and 365-day returns.
Hello, and welcome to Voices from the Battlefield, part of Waterloo Remembered. In this extract, Andrew Locke reads from the recollections of Carl Jacobi from the Lüneburg Field Battalion.
Okay, this is a recording by Andrew Locke of part of an account by Captain Carl Jacobi of the Lüneburg Field Battalion, 1st Hanoverian Brigade, taken from the Waterloo Archive Volume 2, German sources, edited by Gareth Glover. Towards 9 o'clock, the skies had cleared up completely. The warming sun shone down upon us, and a little dried spot soon enticed me to go to sleep. I lay down next to many comrades, and slumber soon gave us the sweet rest that our exhausted bodies were so much in need of. We may have slept for more than an hour, regardless of the turmoil around us, when we were suddenly awakened by shouts of "Get up! Get up!" We stood to arms, and a short time later the French artillery started firing at us. The English batteries responded, and while the iron greetings flew back and forth, I took care of a monetary transaction. A short time ago, I had sold a horse to then Captain von Schlutter, aide-de-camp to General von Alten, for his brother who served with the King's German Legion. Now, at the beginning of the battle, Captain von Schlutter came to me and brought the selling piece of 30 Napoleon d'Or. The money proved to be most welcome to me and some friends in the coming weeks. The brother died of a severe wound he had received on this day. Our battalion stood in close column at the left wing of the brigade. We had an excellent view of the area in front of us from the plateau on which we were posted. A marvellous, sublime feeling gripped all of us. We had courageously fought many a battle, but never before had we been part of as great a body of troops as this one. Never before had we taken part in a battle which was to decide the fate of countries near and far. As the cannonade became ever more violent, as we beheld the enemy's attack columns descending into the plain, as the foremost French battalions began to deploy, all of this caused the mind and triumph over the frailty of the body. All the misery of the night and morning were forgotten. We were idle spectators for hours of the fighting that surged before us, particularly of the violent contest around Hougoumont. But when after 2 o'clock a vigorous attack was launched against the farm of La Haye-Sainte, which was located immediately in front of us, our Lieutenant Colonel led us down from our position to confront the enemy. Full of determination and in good order, we advanced. We threw ourselves upon the enemy, who fell back. Part of the battalion, including also my company, was sent into the orchard of La Haye-Sainte. The remaining part spread out in the open against the French tirailleurs. In the beginning, we successfully defended the orchard, but then the enemy moved up with formed columns against whom the enclosure of sparse hedges offered no protection. We were forced to yield, without any time left again to rally the men. Outside, we fell in with the other scattered parts of the battalion, in the midst of the French cavalry which at this moment carried out its first bold attack against the position. The battalion was completely dispersed. Some of the fleeing men found refuge behind the squares of the brigade, myself included, although French cuirassiers had trotted past myself 10 to 12 paces away. Nobody among us really knew how he had escaped the horses' hooves or the horsemen's swords. There were moments when the senses of hearing and sight had in fact shut down, and not just figuratively so. Only faintly do I remember that I had told some men fleeing next to me to fire on individual horsemen among the pursuers. This was the sudden and sad outcome of our action that had been commenced so courageously and auspiciously. Would it not have been possible to observe in good time the approach of the enemy cavalry, or to form with calmness and circumspection, if not a regular square, at least a compact mass? And these are idle questions, and the fundamentals are missing for finding an answer. Our losses were considerable, but most depressing was the evidence that at this moment the Lüneburg battalion had ceased to exist. Not even the smallest gathering of its troops can be found anywhere. I noticed our lieutenant colonel behind the squares of our brigade. His horse had been shot dead, and he himself had been wounded by a shot in his right thigh. The bone had fortunately not been injured. He asked me to obtain a horse for him if possible. The Duke of Cumberland Hussar Regiment stood behind us. Among its officers were friends of mine, and I succeeded in obtaining a spare horse. I brought it to the lieutenant colonel and helped him mount the horse. I thus fulfilled my promise I had made to his wife several weeks ago. The lieutenant colonel rode off to Brussels after exhorting the officers that were present to rally the scattered men of the battalion as best as possible. But how were we to accomplish this? A number of men who happened to be nearby attached themselves to the officers. They told us that more men had fled to the houses behind the rear of Mont Saint-Jean. We went there, and after some time, Captain Rahl, Lieutenants Borries, Crate, Ritter, and Adjutant von Pelt gathered there together with about 50 men. The men formed rank and file, and I and the senior captain, Rahl, considered what to do next. In my opinion, we had to march back to the brigade, but Captain Rahl could not make up his mind. He was completely exhausted and let me be in charge and stayed with us. I divided the small group into 5 sections, made them wheel into column and had them march off to the position. The road in that direction was covered by incoming projectiles from the French artillery that passed over the plateau in front of us, and we were hit by solid shot and howitzer shells and lost several killed and a number of wounded men on our advance. We nevertheless marched on without delay to a spot directly behind our brigade. Adjutant von Pentz had been riding ahead in order to report to Count von Kielmansegger our coming. He now returned to us and brought the general's order to march to Brussels with the remaining corps of the battalion and to gather as many of the battalion's men as possible. We now had to pass once more through the area exposed to enemy artillery fire, but without having further losses we came to the forest of Soignes, which is traversed by the Brussels highway. However, it was blocked everywhere by wagons and carts driven into one another that even pedestrians were hardly able to pass through. We were almost always forced to work our way through ditches on the side of the roadway or through thick underbrush, and we were only very slowly getting ahead, but our men held together very well all the time. We arrived near Brussels only at the onset of darkness. Here I met unexpectedly Lieutenant Meyer of our battalion, who served as brigade auditor at the time. He was riding a horse and had with him his mounted orderly, whose horse he now offered me for my use. He invited me to join him on his ride to his quarters in the city. I thought that my presence with the small remainder of the battalion was no longer required. Since my exhaustion had reached a point at which I felt I was almost no longer able to move forward, I accepted, and was most thankful for his invitation. Here I found myself suddenly transferred from the turmoil of battle and trampled fields to a quiet, handsomely appointed room. I had to have my boots cut off my swollen and sore feet. After I had cleaned myself as well as possible and had refreshed myself with meat and drink, I gently fell asleep in a comfortable bed. Such are the ups and downs in a warrior's life. Last night, hungry and stiff from being cold and wet in muck and mud. This night, sated and warm on a dry and comfortable bed. When I woke up on the morning of the 19th, Lieutenant Meyer greeted me with the good news that the battle had been won and that in the evening of the 18th, the French army had completely disintegrated. Our joy, or should I say jubilation, over this news was all the greater since on the preceding evening the most unfavourable rumours about the adverse situation of the Allies had made the rounds in Brussels. More detailed information about the great decisive victory were of course not yet available, but there was no doubt that Wellington's army was on the advance. Lieutenant Meyer had decided to join me in looking for our brigade. I used the morning hours to get some more rest, and I wrote a brief letter home to tell my family that I had survived all the perils of the last 3 days thanks to God's merciful providence. I procured shoes and gaiters, and in the afternoon we rode over the battlefield, which was still covered with the grisly remains of the fighting, and on to Nivelles. On the 20th I again joined the battalion, which had marched off from Brussels on the morning of the 19th and was now on the road to Binche. About 200 men had gathered again, part of them in a poor condition, without knapsacks, and with the most diverse firearms they had picked up on the battlefield. After we had halted in front of Bavay during the night of the 21st, we moved on the 22nd to the Forêt de Montmal, where we were allowed a day of rest. A number of stragglers also arrived here at the battalion, and so did my orderly with the horses and the personal effects, thus putting me in better circumstances for the bivouacs in the future. From this camp in the wood I sent a letter to my father. This letter, as well as the one of the 19th, were among the papers left behind at my father's death, and both of them I will here include since they reflect my state of mind at the time. Brussels, 19th of June 1815. Without delay, dear father, I will write to you that George and I have fortunately survived the bloody days of the 16th, 17th and 18th. Napoleon has been totally defeated. The victory has cost us much. Almost all generals and staff officers of our division have been wounded, killed or taken prisoner. Of our battalion, only 5 officers, apart from myself, and about 100 men are still fit for service. More to you as soon as we get some rest. We are all terribly exhausted. For 3 days we have been fighting and not a single piece of bread. Caroline will, I expect, write to Plough that I am all right and that Captain von Bourbath is among the fallen. Yours, Carl.
That was the historian Andy Locke reading from the recollections of Carl Jacobi of the Lüneburg Field Battalion. And you can follow Andy on Twitter at BigAndyLocke. Stay tuned to the Napoleonicist, where more instalments of the Voices from the Battlefield series will be released throughout the day.
Planning for your next trip? Elevate your travel style with Quince. Quince has all the jet-setting essentials you'll want for your next getaway, like European linen, premium luggage options, buttery soft Italian leather bags, and so much more. And it's all priced at 50 to 80% less than similar brands. Plus, Quince only works with factories that use safe and ethical manufacturing practices. Pack your bags with high-quality essentials you'll be wearing for vacations to come with Quince. Go to quince.com/trip for free shipping and 365-day returns.